Well met, lords and ladies, Jacob Butter speaking, and a warm welcome to this week's Walking Wednesday. My head. I had the chance today to avoid, to not do a driving lesson because my arm was sick, but then my dad offered, and I was like, I could, since I'm not feeling 100% myself all the time, and neither was he, I could say, let's just leave it for the day. But I was kind of curious. Because one of the things about the actual driving instructor that I have on Tuesdays, and compared to the lessons that my mum gives on lots of other days of the week, most other days of the week, they have not only are the cars different because one's a petrol, one's a diesel, but they have a little bit of a different style to each other, or things that they like to emphasize, or methods of either challenging me or testing my knowledge or something. So I was like, okay, let's add a third one to that mixture. So yeah, kind of interesting. I mean, first of all, my dad checked to see where on earth what I'd been before, or had I done certain things, and then eventually at one point said, okay, we'll do this method, or we'll go down this road. Was mainly local stuff, so I guess in a way he sort of ended up becoming a midpoint between them, if that makes sense, hopefully. I don't know, but yeah, do a lot more in third gear, which I normally tend to avoid like the plague, so that's if that's an indication, then I suppose that's one thing to bring up. So yeah, and only now have I realised about my head, because I guess when I'm driving, because there's so many other things to focus on, I'm just like, okay, this is let the rest of this sort of start to come automatically. So yeah, that was a bit of a point of contention as to whether or not I would take allergy medicine or some headache relief of some kind, or what I would do before driving. And I eventually settled on a throat lozenge on account of the fact that I'd be filming this afterwards. So hopefully my voice is fine. But not always a guarantee when one ends up voicing Chuckles for an entire 2 hours of screen time. That was an interesting one. If people missed that for April Fools, we're going to do like a Lion Gate review, and then I eventually decided, I think I made that joke at some point that Zane would be usurped by Chuckles. If you haven't seen the Lion Gate reviews, we normally tend to review those as my street characters. I'm usually Zane, KW is Kawaii-chan, Aiden alternates between Gareth and Travis, Ghosty whenever she's there. She wasn't there last time, but whenever she is there, she alternates between Lucinda and Kim, mostly Kim now because of the impression rather than Lucinda just out of favoritism, I suppose. Which makes sense. I mean, Zane is not my favorite character, but if I tried to be my favorite character from my street, that would end terribly. So we gave that to Emily. Emily was Nekoet. I know that to the family members watching this, those names mean nothing. But it's just a simple case of internal casting based on existing source material. Which I guess that is also what happened with Chuckles. Who could do the best, an impression, and then that just kept on happening. And then afterwards, during that stream, we eventually started replacing all the characters that everyone was at the time with what was I going to say now? Dang it. We replaced them with clowns. I don't know why I messed up that word again. Head. One by one, we decided to keep adding clowns to the mix, as it were. just out of, when I said randomly, oh yeah, didn't Kyle have that one ex that dated a clown at one point, by the name of Giggles or something? Yeah, she was a yandere clown, because we made a joke about yandere clowns or something like that. Which eventually resulted in me daring KW to retire and emerge as Giggles at one point. And then at some point, Emily decided to become Smiles, which was Giggles' sister, who was added to the mix. And in case people don't know, that's sort of how Chuckles himself came to be. So if you don't know, Chuckles originates from Once Upon a Witchlight, which is a series by Legends of Evantris, which is a TTRPG group on Twitch, but they have a YouTube channel too. So what they did was they made a joke about one of the characters, Gideon, accidentally ending the life of a clown by punching him in the body. It turns out he was not very durable. Gideon, the joke is that he's super strong and doesn't know his own strength, and therefore what he considered to be very light was actually like, well, he's just not a very durable clown. I don't know. I've done a Gideon impression before. I've done everyone else's, but yeah, not Gideon. Anyway, yeah. So they added to that. They said, "Oh yeah, wow, he was just down on the floor laughing himself to death or whatever." Yeah, that's why we called him Chuckles. He was known to do that kind of thing. And it was just a one-off little anecdote that they did to make each other laugh while in role play. And slowly but surely, at one point, one of the mechanics of Legend of Evantris was, of a Once Upon a Witchlight, was that sometimes they would end up having to use the twists of dread or twist of fate in order to improve their dice rolls. So when they would do that, they'd be able to improve the original, or I guess reroll, but then they also have to roll a D100, which is a different dice type, say what they got, and then it was revealed what the twist was, and there'd be some sort of curse brought upon by fey magic. And at some point in episode 2 of Once Upon a Witchlight, Gideon was subject to one of these curses, and the quote is, Gideon, who's the last person that you ended, you unalived? And then he goes, well, I think it might have been the clown at the carnival. And so it's like the last person you unalived tells you stuff about them that you never wanted to know. And then instantly one of the other players, Mikey Gilder, decides to bring out a clown voice and immediately start they make make a joke, which I can't really repeat on Walking Wednesday. But yeah, it made everyone laugh, and so they determined on the spot, can Mikey just be Chuckles? And so from that point until the end of time, Mikey was Chuckles. So as long as the fake curse lasted, occasionally he would chime in, only Gideon would hear him. At some point as well, Gideon was able to hear everything around him, even into the ether, so Chuckles would come back again. And then, because they seem to have liked the dynamic so much, and they've been up so often towards the beginning, that eventually Chuckles started appearing as a player character in later campaigns that they would actually do. So essentially, this once unalived clown was brought to life in many different forms, and I still to this day am trying to figure out just how those laws connect and what is canon to each other, and not entirely sure. But the point I was trying to get at was that Chuckles himself was created in a remarkably similar fashion to Giggles and Smiles on our end. And now, because we've reached a light goal on the first Pixelmon video, they're going to be brought to life even more so in the form of some Minecraft improvisation at some point. And that's all down to you lot because, you know, you seem to be interested. Speaking of Pixelmon, the reason I requested that video to be the light goal one is because I knew that it was going to underperform. I need to try and get a way to, you know, kickstart and get people interested in Pixel Month again. Because I mean, I remember somebody on the on one of my live streams said to me that I should do some gameplays. Obviously, they were new to the channel. Oh my! Sorry, the stick doesn't seem to be as robust as I thought it was. Yeah, so they're new to the channel. It was their first stream, but they mentioned that you know, they asked me if I had a sub goal or something, which I at that point didn't, because I had all the subs that I technically needed for YouTube purposes. Yeah, they then said, oh well, you know, one way to get more subs and such was you know, to start doing gameplays, you know, giving like, you know, general channel growth advice. And yeah, so that said, okay, well, fair enough. But then also, you know, the question is, I mean, at one point back in the day, I was doing gameplays, not live ones, admittedly, but in general, gameplays. And then, I'm not sure if you're allowed to even stream on YouTube at the time. And yeah, it really wasn't, it really wasn't going anywhere. It was one of those early things that I did, and yeah, nothing else. But yeah, I mean, I was one of the people who pivoted away from gaming around 2016-ish, or 2017 really. Because that did happen for some time. Eventually at some point, I guess the Let's Players, or anyone who was doing gaming as such and hadn't established that much of a rapport, started switching to commentary videos, mostly brought on by the likes of Leafy is Here. But, you know, there are other examples, you know, Pyrocynical, etc. But yeah, at the time, that was the shift that was going on, and I never shifted back, I suppose. But yeah, obviously, general advice from someone who hasn't seen the channel, you know, you take that with a grain of salt because of the very nature of what it is, of course. Because yeah, Pixel Month, despite the fact that it does coincide with some of the largest growth that I've had, it really does depend whether or not it actually performs well or not. And because of the fact that April, of course, is a month where every single day of the week there's a Pixelmon video all the time, and I'm worried about watch hours if they may or may not end up declining, which they've been up and down for March. March was a recovery for me, because January and February were atrocious. But yeah, it's oh my. Woo. Yeah, so yeah. April could go either way, and because of the fact that it was already like a peak for me, and the fact that I was around this time starting to spam watch hours and compilations and whatnot, it's difficult to say how Pixel Month, what role it will play. So obviously if the videos perform well and people keep watching them, that's one thing, but if they've been interested in watching in the first place is another. And that I don't really know, because when Pixel Month first started in 2020, it was presumed to be performing well, because that was the first time I was using proper custom thumbnails, other than ones that other people have made for me in the past in 2019. But it was also the time when I was doing public voice acting auditions, and a lot of people were finding my channel and contacting me about those, and etc, etc. So eventually it was pretty obvious that that was the source of the growth and not Pixel Month itself. But I kept going because honestly, I do like playing Pixelmon, and you know me, I like to maintain a channel tradition. But yeah, it's kind of hard to say, and debating whether or not I should have experimented with that. Because I mean, in the past I've toyed with the idea of separating the content that I do into separate channels more related to them, because that's actually, that is general good YouTube advice. You know, to keep things into different categories, so you can really, so people will, you know, subscribe for one thing, they'll get that one thing. But yeah, in the past I've been like, I can't maintain other channels by myself, and also anticipate that they will, you know, stick around, and the main channel won't just die out until the Butter Bunch, really. Because the Butter Bunch, the reason I came up with that idea, also 2020, was because I thought, well, you know, there's 4 people, then we're all producing content. It's going to be a bit of a mess, because that's how it would go. I presume we will all be just dumping random things on there. But yeah, it's turns out not necessarily the case. But yeah, because actually, you know, it turns out the Butter Bunch was actually more consistent than the other channels, because I was the only one posting videos for some time, and then BB was the only one posting videos for some time, so it became consistent in that regard too. And now the one thing that we do is the Star Kid things. So we usually have one thing on the go, not intentionally. It's like we deliberately wanted that to happen. It's just how things turned out. So there you have it. So yeah, now I'm kind of weary of what should go on the Butter Bunch, just because, you know, that fan base is, if anything, more established than the mess of a channel followership of different things over the years that I had cultivated. And nowadays, most of that is to do with live streams and some premieres, mainly like the AFMAU ones. But then again, AFMAU is AFMAU, so that's a safety blanket to some degree as well. But yeah, to that person who advised that, yeah, gacha review is the thing that has worked the most in terms of viewer retention. It's the thing that got me to the watch hours, because at some point after I stopped being able to do 5 years later live, I panicked. I realized, like, oh, what's my live source going to be? But I'd done a few live gacha reviews in the past, and I was able to pivot accordingly. Yeah, the only sacrifice was my already messed up sleeping schedule, so it just messed up for a different reason. That's fine. So yeah, that's the reason I kind of stuck to those things. Would Pixel Month work separately? I don't know. People want to see the videos without the music that I put on them most of the time, while we're just going around doing nonsense. Or since the content itself is a bit more adventurous, should it be presented as such? Or is it just that general style of video that was, you know, a great thing 10 years ago? Now people have moved on to the more modern styles of gameplay. You see in a lot of more recent MCYT contributors. All things to debate and consider. While the main priority is learning to drive. So yeah, that's what's going on with me. There is one more thing I want to mention before I sign off, I think. A couple of days ago, Josh sent me a message that was from, I thought it was from the YouTube community page. I later found out that it was actually from Johnny's Discord server, because Josh has light mode on, so it was hard to tell. But Josh sent me a thing from Johnny, which was an announcement debating whether or not to just make Ballroom Pops Revival non-voice acted, or to give people who audition for it the voice acting side of things multiple roles. I forgot that Ballroom Pops Revival, I thought the plan was just normal non-voice acted. I forgot that I auditioned for those characters. I knew that I applied to be Dr. Ruin, another character in the past by the name of Carlos. Yeah, completely slipped my mind. But yeah, and so I just assumed because of Johnny wanted to get a lot of videos out there, Disco Pops particularly, to rekindle the lost fan base from the channel, which I completely understand, of course. You know, how would that reflect, I suppose? How would that, you know, not how that reflect, you know, how quickly could that be done, or how much care would be taken, I suppose. But it seems that yeah, it seems that his auditions have been up the whole time. I forgot that I was even a part of them. My apologies. Again, I do a lot of voice actor gotcha stuff. It's not that I deliberately forget these things, and still most of them get cancelled. Anyway, so yeah, so the debate was whether to make them non-voice acted, to just post the community post somewhere else, try to get more people to audition, or give the current people who auditioned multiple roles. I voted too late, so he did the community tabs one instead. But that does say to me he's on the fence about casting multiple people. That's probably the reason that he's a little bit more affected, because naturally, with gacha voice acting, ideally a person will be able to do an impression of some kind and be able to change their voice so you don't recognize them. But in the case of in the case of some people, they decide that, you know, their own regular voice, they haven't got to that stage yet. I haven't listened to the other auditions, but the problem is there's so many of them that eventually at some point you're kind of expecting that you'll have to double up, or at least I'd be expecting to have to double up and, you know, give somebody else multiple different roles, which I know that a lot of directors feel is unfair. They like to believe in role equity, and, you know, rather than who would be more suited for whichever part, which is actually a reason that, I mean, for example, Team 4-Star, they particularly believe in role equity to begin with. So when it was just, I think, like 4 or 5 of them splitting up different roles, they decided, maybe 6 it was, they decided, okay, well, we need to make sure everyone has a balance. That's the reason for the infamous fighting for the mic joke that from the first episode, there's the one that they hate most of all. So yeah, that one, yeah, then they eventually decide, as they kept on going, they decided, okay, well, we need to actually do this properly. And, you know, the industry standard is not to give, you know, all people like different multiple just the same roles. I think The Simpsons might be an exception. There's like the same 6 people doing a lot of those different characters. I'm not sure how they balance those out, but most of the time that's not the case. That's why you get you know, things that seem to be skewed towards someone's favor. It's not to do with favoritism necessarily. In the case of like Fallen Angels, it's reliability. The reason I keep getting landing roles is, well, A, because of the range that I have, I'm able to make different voices, and B, because Aiden knows I'm not going to go anywhere, that I'll stick by, that I'm reliable, etc., etc. That's why that happens. So sometimes it's a case of, you know, knowing the person, knowing they'll be around, but most of the time it is to do with the actual range that they might have. So all of this is to say, role equity is a thing you can strive for, but not necessarily. if you're trying to pull from a limited pool of people who might not be able to, or some of them might be able to give more of a variety than others, not necessarily better, but more varied, then that's when I'd say, don't do that. You know, distribute the roles based on who suits them rather than who hasn't got something yet. And also, there is the matter of there were a lot more male auditions than female, which is rare in Gacha community, but it does happen sometimes. And there were only 2 male characters up for grabs. So there is a very high chance that some of the people who only went for the male auditions aren't going to get any roles, and the female auditionees will be drawn from a larger pool anyway. So it was always going to end up being unbalanced to some degree. And yeah, I think we all kind of expected that. I say I think because within the Pops franchise, it's sort of up in the air. It's hard to say because people have expectations. Some of them end up appearing as themselves, which reminds me, Treat Pop apparently auditioned for the role of herself, but like actually went through a formal audition, which I have to say I thoroughly commend, because sometimes it's like, well, I mean, you know, I want to be in this by default. But yeah, that's one thing that I tend to do is whenever I open up at any different characters might be up for grabs, even if I think, oh, I might be better for these myself, just to see if there is some other actor out there. I mean, granted, I don't appear as my own character in most of the stuff that I do. I mean, in the Butterverse, I am canonically a therapist, but that's neither here nor there. I also know for a fact that I was actually a character in Ballroom Pops, so at some point I will most likely be voicing myself in a video if you know, he wants to have the same judges again, because it could not. It's a revival. You never know what he might decide. And for the record, Johnny, if you're watching this, I don't mind either way. You know, you pick the judges that you want. I'm not worried either way. I'm still going to review the videos, so not like I'm not going to be involved in some way. But yeah, it's one of those tough calls that you have to make as a director, and because Johnny is the first time he's directing voice actors, is learning a lot of these things. Although I must say, if this were a Sunny V2 video, I would definitely be saying something to the effect of, well, Johnny's got a lot to learn, he doesn't hold a candle to the likes of Treat Pop. Because, yeah, here's where I have a few more actual complaints. I understand that for a few people, they don't want to get other social medias just for the sake of one singular thing, you know, whereas a lot of the auditions that I do end up being on Discord, and that's because I was already using Discord before even starting on the gacha voice acting journey. And most of the time, the projects end up being managed in a Discord server anyway, so I'm kind of like the middleman in terms of things like Casting Call Club, for example. Aiden, on the other hand, uses Casting Call Club quite a lot to, you know, try to get people, and he found it was a bilingual tab for the Spanish Tab of Fallen Angels, for example. So if anything, I should be using Casting Call Club a lot more than I am. But I understand why it's a discomfort that some people have to use other social medias they don't normally use, or websites or whatever it might be, for the express purpose of something on a social media they already usually have, like YouTube, for example. I get that. However, there is a limit, because some of the time, when you're trying to stick to a couple of social medias that you normally have, that you already have, those social medias may or may not be designed in a way that impedes the development of your own project. The reason that we don't just use YouTube exclusively as a way to get auditionees is because, well, yeah, we manage it on Discord, but we use a bunch of other things. We have Google Docs for the script, and that's, you know, we can link that easily on Discord. We can either promote certain videos, we can link those on Discord, we can send files to each other on Discord, or exchange email addresses if we need to, if files are too big, but we exchange those on Discord. Discord, you know, whether you like it or not, is designed in such a way that makes it easier to do these things in the first place. YouTube isn't. Back in the day, there used to be a thing called YouTube Friends, and this is before my time on YouTube, actually. But it was a thing that you could use, and I believe it was just, you know, messaging people, you know, from their channels directly. And that was actually how Team 4-Star, again to mention them again, would connect back in the day. Even though they later made fun of YouTube Friends as a concept. Despite that, they kind of like, you know, owe their existence to that ability. They then eventually switched to Skype. So again, another thing that they might use. And then that's when they decided to create Team 4-Star in the first place, because they used to be, you know, just independent creators. So yeah, that's YouTube Friends. If that still existed, I would have said to Tree Pop in a heartbeat. By all means, I'll add you on there. I'll become your YouTube friend, and I will send you your lines and such. But it was kind of difficult to get a proper answer out of Tree Pop, particularly. So yeah, she mentioned on one of her own streams, which I joined at some point. I joined on Streamlabs, again, the thing that she uses for that purpose, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll join here. So I joined on Streamlab, and eventually she asked me if I wanted to voice act in Tree Pop and Trust Pop, the series. And I was like, well, yeah, I would love to, so how should I send stuff in? And then she, at that point, said Streamlab. The problem with Streamlab is that unless you have a way to send somebody a link to a Streamlab room, you cannot join a person's Streamlab in order to, you know, send them things or have them direct you. You need some other way. Again, like Discord or Skype. Technically, I guess you could use a YouTube comment, but that's only if the person happens to be around. YouTube does, the notification system on there is not good enough. So again, another issue. But Tree Pop is so adamant about not getting a Discord account or any other messaging service. I don't care if it's Instagram or something, but a different way that involves direct messaging, that you can send a script to somebody, or at the very least copy and paste the lines. But it seems like she has preferred to go onto her community post and do things on there. And not only that, but also separate a bunch of lines and ping people specifically on there. And then, of course, we can't ask for directions all the time unless she happens to be in there, so I asked in the stream. So it's just a chaotic mess. It's not impossible to do a voice acting thing and use only YouTube as a method of communication. If anything, maybe because of the fact that people are making videos to send to you, that might end up being an unintentional form of marketing. But from the perspective of the voice actors who want direction, who want to see a script, who want to help out, it is excruciating to go through that process. So again, if it's not Discord, it should be something else, but please reconsider that. I seriously do not recommend using YouTube for a voice acted project. I'm distributing, obviously, like actually making the project itself and putting it on YouTube, that's fine. I mean, for messaging the actors, terrible idea. But yeah, that's all the time I've got for this week. I've got to go back and actually send some lines on YouTube, so look forward to those.